You know, maybe it's just a hallucination. I don't know. And then the ship starts to move. We travel so far into space, not through space, but into space, that my body on the mountain completely disappears.
Ooh, buddy, I'm so excited for this episode. This is my homie Chris Adams, aka Ahee, A-H-E-E, a bass music DJ based out of Oregon, and one of the coolest, most chillest dudes I've ever met. I love this man, I love his music, I love his intentions and what he's putting into the world. We had an awesome time talking about psychedelics in regards to his creative process, as well as some pretty trippy alien stories that y'all are definitely going to want to stick around for. You're also going to want to go check out my new tour dates at brettpella.com/shows. You're going to find all types of dates because I'm cruising everywhere this year. My comedy special is coming out soon, unless it's already out, because I'm not sure when this episode is dropping, but go to brettpella.com/shows to see where I'm stopping through. Hopefully in your city. I'll be in San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego, Escondido, Chicago, Austin, all over Florida, Birmingham, Alabama, something in Arkansas, I'm pretty sure. It's all up at brettpella.com/shows. But first, a quick shout out to the sponsors of this season of the Good Trip podcast. Don't skip the ads, they're fun. I got fun ads, I promise you. The ads are fun. And what's even more fun is you and how your body is gonna feel when you start checking out Legit Gold, She Legit, and Hemp Lucid CBD. Both of these products are daily rituals in my life, starting with She Legit in the morning. She Legit is a mineral-rich resin that can dissolve super easily into your morning coffee or tea. There's also a pre-dissolved version in water. One dropper goes a long way. For me, I've noticed a huge boost in my mental clarity, my focus. In the morning, I can focus on the task at hand and knock it out clean without being distracted by whatever's around me. There's also been all types of research and scientific studies on the positive benefits that She Legit can have on your overall health, including the ability to boost testosterone in men and balance your hormones. Legit Gold is a US-based, family-owned and operated company that I love. Check out more at legitgold.com and use promo code Brent for 15% off your order. And when you're looking to chill out after a super long day, I highly recommend CBD, specifically Hemp Lucid CBD. Hemp Lucid uses a proprietary strain of USDA certified organic CBD, which not a lot of other companies on the market do, because not a lot of other companies on the market really truly care about your health. I've been digging the water-soluble version of Hemp Lucid CBD. This is created using advanced nanotechnology that breaks down the CBD into more bioavailable particles so that your body can absorb it and put it to use quicker. There are also mushroom-based gummies that have all kinds of great ingredients in them to help you focus, to help you de-stress, and to help you ease into sleep. I have one of these each night when I'm getting ready for bed, about an hour before bed, and I notice that I can just fall asleep easier and I wake up feeling more refreshed. And I would love for you to be the same, because the world would be a better place if we were all just a little bit healthier. So cruise over to hemplucid.com, use promo code PELLA for a discount at hemplucid.com using promo code PELLA, and check out all the other stuff they have to offer. I love that company and I love you. Now I'm super happy y'all are here because this is a banger of an episode, so please enjoy my conversation with Ahee, aka Chris Adams.
Good afternoon and good morning.
Thanks for letting me stay over.
Dude, thanks for being here, dude.
Yeah.
Did you have a good sleep?
I did. I dreamed I was like in Venice, like making music with other artists. It was really trippy. I usually don't remember my dreams, but yeah.
Do you have crazy dreams?
Usually no.
Yeah.
Usually I don't. But occasionally I'll have like the craziest dream and I'll like spend the time writing it down. Like one time I did DMT, or I was in a dream and I fell asleep in another dream and I fell asleep in that dream. So I was 3 dreams deep.
You inceptioned yourself?
Apparently. And then in that third dream, I did DMT. And then I like blasted out of my body and was like a shooting star through the cosmos for at least 500 years. And then like came back into my body and woke up and then woke up and then woke up. And I was like, oh my God.
That's insane.
Yeah.
So your base reality, had you done anything in that?
No, I was sober in that one.
You were sober?
Yeah.
Oh man, your
Well, I was
dreams are
asleep.
a trip, dude. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Dreaming is weird though. Dreaming,
right?
like it really psychedelic. It is psychedelic when you dream, because your whole frame of reference for reality is completely distorted. Anything can happen. You can feel any emotion. You can experience any sensation. It's nuts.
And sometimes you can experience things that you've never experienced sober, you know, or awake.
Yeah. Do you think dreams connect us to a different reality, or do you think dreams are just kind of a what comes from the chemicals in your brain having this free space where you're not having to make sense of the world around you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the dream. What are dreams? You know, that's like one of the big questions of being human. I don't have a profound answer to that or anything. You know, I don't know just as much. If I had to guess, though, I would say that there are self-similarities between psychedelics and the ability to shift consciousness and dreams. And so I think that there is some window of learning that could be had inside dreams where it's like, oh, what is it like to, like, it, when people talk about psychedelics, they talk about, oh, a phase shift in my reality, or it was like retuning the television set to a different consciousness. And I think dreams are only like sober, concrete, like way of like giving analogies to that experience. So I would say, I mean, I feel like I've learned some things in dreams before, so you know, there's value in that. I don't think they're totally random, but also I don't think that having like a bad dream means like you're a, you know, this bad person in this other reality or something like that. You know?
Yeah, I don't think so. I hope not, because I've had some bad dreams.
Same.
I've also had some weird dreams where I dream something that's kind of grounded and real, and then months later, that exact thing will happen.
I've had a few of those, but
I've had that a lot, and I've had it.
Not a lot.
I've had it like at least 10 times that I can remember. And sometimes what I dream is so basic that when it happens in real life and I get this deja vu flashback, at first it's like, oh shit, I dreamt that I'd be eating ice cream like in Austin, Texas. I dreamt this. But then it's like also like, okay, I go to Austin a lot. I'm a fan of ice cream every once in a while, so I'm probably going to have ice cream in Austin at some point. But then there's been really specific ones where like somebody says a certain thing to me in a certain place, like a friend from high school. I dreamt that a friend from high school said something to me, at like a bar or something. It's vague now, but then that exact conversation happened like a year later, and I remembered it from this dream. So do I have superpowers? I think so. And, I would love to be honored for those superpowers, but dude, dreams are weird.
Dude. I do think that there could be something along the lines of, how do I say it? Because of our ability to even though our body is shut down, to still have a conscious like perception, there is something to that in the sense that like, oh, consciousness is almost like the truth behind reality.
Yeah.
You know, and then all the other things form around that. And you know, and I feel like that's like one of the things with psychedelic experiences is that they point to consciousness being the seed of reality rather than consciousness being a creation,
like
or
a byproduct
of reality.
Yeah. Did you grow up with just a general curiosity for these kind of existential topics, or were you guided by anyone specifically?
I actually, this is funny you ask, because like, yeah, I was really interested in these things, and I grew up in Texas, and no one around me had any language or interest in these things, and I had no one to talk to.
Really?
And I was just like, it really started when I was like 6 years old, and then like heavier things started coming in when I was 8 and 10. But I would like go into these almost like trance-like states and like move energy or something like that, or like I would go into a trance-like state and like perform some action that had some magical or ritual like significance.
When you were that young.
Yeah. And I would also have like these like, I don't know, visions, you know? And so I always wondered like, oh, maybe I'm just crazy, you know? But so I didn't tell anybody until, you know, I was like way out of college and being like, oh yeah, by the way, my childhood was crazy. You know, I grew up in such like a loving household and very normal. I grew up in a very normal straight edge, almost like the Beverly Hills of Texas. And this place called the Park Cities. And so it felt very odd to be having these experiences and no one else mentioning them.
Wow. Yeah. So at what point did you start to find like a community to connect with about this kind of stuff?
When I found Alex Gray's art online.
Cool. How old were you then?
This was like 2006.
Nice. Yeah.
2007, something like that, like just before I was going to go to college. And I was like, oh, there are other people in the world that have experienced altered states.
Yeah.
You know? And then talking with friends, you know, we would go to these like wooded areas in North Texas and take mushrooms there, and just like the synchronicities that would happen in these. What was really crazy is there's this one forest we'd all go to, and like me and my girlfriend at the time decided to do mushrooms together in this forest, and we're walking through the forest, like starting to come up, and then we run into two of my other friends peeking on mushrooms in the woods, and we see each other and we're like,
and you didn't know they were there?
No. And it's just like, this is a big forest.
Yeah.
So to like run into them, like that's what I think is sort of unique about dreams and psychedelics is synchronicities. Like that topic, because synchronicities sort of they tear at the human conception of time. You know, that time is this linear thing, you know, and I feel like synchronicities, they sort of hint that time can be interacted with in like a different way than just linear.
And is that's, I want to go deeper on that, because that's really cool, because synchronicities to me have been like some of the strongest moments of psychedelic experiences that I've had, for sure. And I typically, for me, the synchronicities that happen during a heavier journey, sometimes even during a microdose session, but during a heavier journey, the synchronicities that happen begin to add up, so that when the journey is over and I enter the integration phase, what I'm looking back at is the synchronicities that teach me the whatever lesson that I'm going to take from that. So that's a really interesting way to talk about synchronicities, is that they tear at our perception of time. Can you go a little more on that? Like how do you mean? Because when synchronicities happen, it's like it's shocking, it's jarring, it's amazing sometimes, and all in a good way for me. Like when something like what just happened with your example specifically, you didn't know they were in the woods, right?
No.
You didn't know that they were on mushrooms. You didn't know that they were even around that day.
Yeah.
And out of nowhere, they appear. Like they spontaneously fucking appear.
Peaking.
Yeah. Yeah, peaking.
Yeah.
As were you.
Yeah.
So how does that push at time for you? Like how does that start to poke at your perception of time? Is it because they seemed to have just appeared?
Here's another example. Is another point in time, decade, like maybe a decade, less than a decade later, but this was around maybe 2011. I was in Los Angeles, and I was doing LSD with another then girlfriend of mine, and I was trying to demonstrate to her as we were coming up on LSD, like the energy work that I did as a kid. And I like pointed to the sky, and I was like, see, I summon up this, not summon, but I like feel this field of existing consciousness, and I concentrate it, and then I was like, and then I'll like move it around, and then I point to the sky and move my hand across, and as soon as I do that, like we're sitting like next to each other, you know, close, and as soon as I point to the sky, a shooting star appears, and I'm moving my hand, and it traces my finger perfectly.
Yeah.
Like, and I pull my hand away, and we're just both like, ah!
Yeah.
You know? Both of us, we couldn't believe what had just happened.
Yeah.
We were like, that was so crazy lined up. Like, what are the chances of you pointing at the sky and moving your hand and it showing up? And then later that night, I make the poor decision, don't do this, to drive on LSD to a psychedelic art gallery in downtown LA called the Temple of Visions that existed around then. And as we're driving, we enter into this tunnel that's right next to Union Station in near downtown. And as soon as the tunnel was like all pitch black for some reason, but as soon as we entered the tunnel, all the lights went on, and there was a giant marching band in the tunnel that hit their first note as soon as all the lights went on. And I'm on LSD, and I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, the first note of this giant marching band, all the lights turn on, and like we're driving super slow, being like, are we hallucinating this? But what's funny is I had it on, I carried a portable field recorder everywhere I went around that time, and so I have it on recording. So I'm like, okay, it was real. And so like, what are the chances of anytime we tried to call a taxi, but like 3 taxis just like canceled their rides on us. And so we're like, okay, we got to get there before this thing starts. And so like, what are the chances of us going through all this effort to try to accomplish a task, and the universe deviated us on another path that like aligned us with these exciting things? And I feel like the synchronicities, when they occur, they remind us again that time and timing, and that the world, that there is something other than the linear, way that we see things.
Yeah. And it adds to the unpredictability. Yeah. The unpredictable nature.
Well, it adds to the excitement of being. Yeah. It adds to, like, because when you're excited about life, there's, I feel like more consciousness comes into you. Yep. And you're feeling more alive. It's like, the only way I can really describe, it's almost like if there were like thousands or millions or billions of like points of other souls or something coming in, being like, oh, something exciting is happening here. And they all want to see, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And I don't know if that's true, but it's an intuitive feeling in the moment.
Mm-hmm. When did music start to become something more than just casual listening for you? Did you grow up playing music?
Well, I started playing guitar when I was maybe 11. And another thing is, like, I never learned properly. When I first learned, I played only with my thumb, and I strummed upwards.
Oh, really? Strummed upwards?
Yeah.
That's reggae, dude.
I didn't learn anything properly from anyone. So I was just winging it, and I retuned the guitar to like work so I could just capo it with my thumb, basically. Yeah. And then I'd play like I'd try to find weird harmonics. And so I was around 10 when that happened. But when I was 6, I had a vision. And I think this was when like all these things really started happening for me. Was when I was 6, I was in my childhood bathroom. I was like looking at the corner in the bathroom, and I just saw almost like my whole life. And I was like, oh, to my 6-year-old self, I'm like, I'm going to grow up and be a rock star. And then at some other point, there's like another mission beyond that. And of reaching oneness. And as a 6-year-old, like, I didn't know what that meant. And now, I'm touring around doing music. I'm not a rock star. I'm a dubstep DJ, but like,
yeah, it's very close.
Yeah,
it's very close.
But it's, it's another one of those things where I can remember that memory as a 6-year-old. It's like one of my clearest memories as a kid. But at the same time, I don't think about it a lot.
Yeah. It's interesting that sensation of like wonder and wonderment can be so strong as a kid. When I was 8, when I was maybe 7 through 11, I had this necklace. On one side was the yin yang, and on the other side was like a starry galaxy nebula. And it was a little like circular pendant. Forgot where I got it.
Yeah.
But I used to always say a prayer to it. I didn't know it was a prayer back then.
Yeah.
I was just talking to it.
Yeah.
But now I know what a prayer is.
Yeah.
And I would say like a prayer to it. And it was a prayer to the universe.
Yeah.
About being one and being grateful, like to be alive. It was this little kid thing. No
Yeah.
one taught it to me. I just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
did it. I don't even know where I got it from.
Yeah.
But I did it every single night. Every night.
Oh.
And then when
at what age?
Like between ages like 7 through 10 ish.
Okay.
And then around 10 or 11, I lost it. I lost the necklace and I cried. But during the tears, like during the cry, I told myself at like age 10 or 11, like this is what the universe wanted. It was done. I was done with the necklace now. I credit my mom for that because she's a fucking hippie, but for like how I was raised. But it, to connect with what you were saying you did at a young age, it's just interesting that when you're that young, you don't have as much input coming into you as you do when you get older. So your connection to whatever you want to call it, source or the universe or your own internal energy is stronger, even if you can't fully understand it yet.
Yeah. Also, I really do believe in past lives and karma. And I feel like, as a kid, there's some permeability. And then as you grow up, you sort of solidify more into this lifetime. And I don't think of lifetimes as necessarily linear, but as like, you're going to experience, if everything is one, you're going to experience everything. Yeah.
So how would you quantify past lives then? Would you quantify it as like, we all come from one energy source and then we're just put into these 3D bodies, and then when the 3D bodies die, that energy goes back to the source and then it comes back again in the next iteration?
I think that it does something unexpected and surprising, because that's the sort of the, I don't know, prime directive of like being alive, is that life itself is almost like a distraction from eternity. Yeah. Like, if everything is one, then imagine being that one thing forever and how boring that would get.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to create Genghis Khan.
Yeah. You got to go. Yeah. Which I also, I have to separate sometimes like those beliefs, because then it's sort of, you can get into an acceptance of evil, which I think part of the journey also is to grow like what is, I don't know. I think there is some truth to, there are some good lessons to good and evil, though it can be misinterpreted, and, calling a lot of things evil over time has led to a lot of chaos. But also, maybe the chaos is the point. I'm uncertain, and so it's like a line that I like flip flop back on, where it's like, oh yeah, everything is one, and it's like everything is divine, but then it's also like I'm not okay with acting in a certain way or other people acting in a certain way.
Right.
Right. And yeah, I guess the journey, I don't know, at least for me, is like finding that balance in those two like sort of opposing, viewpoints. And, I think that can create, for it seems, at least so far, it seems like an infinite amount of, growth.
Have you ever spoken to somebody about past lives, who like somebody who like actually remembers their past lives?
No.
Or have you ever listened to a podcast with somebody like that?
No, I have one past life like really strong memory, and I don't think it's like, oh, I was
the Queen of
the Queen
England
of England
or whatever,
something like that, you know, or I'm Napoleon Bonaparte, you know. It's like it's my personal one was I wasn't anyone famous. I was a I was a the daughter of a shaman in the Amazon jungle, and basically I wanted a white man came to our village with recording technology, and I was so fascinated by it that I asked Gaia, the spirit of the earth, to let me die and be reborn a white man so I could use their technology.
What?
To like speak through the spirit of the earth. And like that to me, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
You know, because like, I don't know. I always like to give myself like, oh, maybe these, it's like a thought and a story that came to me in an instant, you know. I was sober and I was just like reading a book, and then all of a sudden this whole
It was like a
story
download.
memory,
Yeah.
it just happened like within a split second. And I was like,
Wow.
oh, that sort of explains a lot of weird things about me. You know, I don't know if it's true. Maybe I'm just very creative, you know, in my mind. I'm just like making up stuff. But at the same time, I don't know. That's one of the reasons why I am interested in the idea of past lives, though.
Yeah.
Is because my own personal experience.
Yeah.
Like having a moment in my life being like, oh, like this is a different kind of memory than when I think about like, oh, remembering what it was like to be a child. This is like a memory that feels real, but is not from this body. Yeah.
And so as you kept seeking out like new knowledge and new ways of thinking of things, and as you found Alex Gray and as you started getting into music, did you have anyone to connect with on all this stuff? Did your parents connect with you on spirituality or anything like that?
They probably haven't heard any of this. Sorry, Mom.
Well, here you go. Yeah.
I had a crazy life, and my parents love me so much, so
cool.
I love them. But no, I didn't have anyone to talk to about this stuff. I would encounter other people that had similar experiences, and I think as I grew older, you know, especially going to festivals for whatever reason, like
well, that's where all the weirdos are.
Yeah,
so,
you know.
Yeah, everybody's got a past life at a festival, dude. For sure. You know, and so that's where also I developed some skepticism of whether these things I've experienced are real or not, because I've seen other people use this terminology to try to get laid. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. All the weird gurus out there, the quote guru leaders and the weird culty people.
Yeah. And so it seems weird to like, it almost feels like some of these topics can so easily get co-opted for personal gain.
For sure.
You know? And that's why I tend not to talk with people about these things, even though I am now.
But you don't want to make it first and foremost what you're known for and like what you preach.
No, well, I want to. The reason why I'm sharing it is because I don't know. I've always wanted to share it.
Yeah,
it's just I don't know. I feel like I had to establish myself in something before I could share it.
Yeah. When did you start going to festivals?
2012.
Okay.
No, 2010. I went to Lightning in a Bottle.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Or before that, I went to a psytrance party with this famous DJ, Goa Gill, and he would do like 24-hour sets.
Whoa.
Yeah, and he would stay up on LSD. And I don't know, I'm personally not a huge fan of psytrance, but some of my friends took me to one, and I was like, oh, there's some interesting people here. So I had a lot of really good conversations. And then as I started going to festivals, like when I found Lightning in a Bottle, I was like, oh my God, Hogwarts is real.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, man. I like to say everybody at festivals look like they got kicked out of Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Everybody's some type of witch or wizard.
Yeah. And so, you know, and that's where I met my fiance.
At Lightning in a Bottle?
At Lucidity, and then at Alex Gray show when
Sweet.
Opio was playing.
Nice.
And like our first conversation was in complete gibberish during a tipper set at Lucidity.
Oh, insane.
Yeah, in 2014. And then we parted ways, and then we saw each other at the Alex Gray Opio show, and we're like, oh, you're that person.
You're the gibberish guy.
Yeah, you know?
yeah.
And then we've been together for 9 years. You know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah, my first festival, I'd been to a couple like, conscious gatherings, and then Nate took me to Lightning in a Bottle in 2016. It was both of our first LIB. And then we went to that 3 years in a row, and that was the first place I had like a big psychedelic experience on LSD, which was wild, and it just broke my brain open into realizing that there's so many other levels of consciousness that we can experience in this reality that we're in. And it was great. It was wild. It's a wild thing to experience a festival for the first time, especially after being kind of like skeptical of the festival scene. Like I didn't really like electronic music in college. I was always a hip hop guy, and I even said that I like labeled myself a hip hop guy. I don't like dubstep. It's stupid. I don't like EDM, whatever. But just allowing yourself, for me, allowing myself the space to like things, even just as a possibility, gave me a whole new path, like in life, literally in life. Because now you just watch the intro for my special. Yeah. It's got
really good
dubstep in it. Yeah. I mean, it's nuts. It's crazy.
And then we're working on that.
And then we're working on some insane madness that's going to be a bassy nightmare of beautiful things.
I love working on that thing. I've never worked on a project that consistently makes me laugh, as I'm working on it.
Yeah, dude.
Or, usually it's like, the meme of like dubstep DJs, going through and finding the correct snare, or you're looping one section.
Yeah.
And so I'm going through and like cleaning up everything and producing it, and just like consistently every time going over certain lines, I'm like,
I'm planning the video too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be insane.
Yeah. And so I love that we're finding this like melding of like conscious music, aggressive dubstep, and comedy.
And comedy. Dude, it's my favorite intersection. I'm so excited for it.
Yeah. It's going to be a weird trifinity of sorts.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'm stoked, dude. It'll be fun. So when did you start Ahee as a project?
2007.
Oh, cool. So that was a while ago.
Was it?
That's dope.
Wait.
Right before you went to college?
Yeah, or I think right as I was going to college. Was it? Basically one of my friends in college came up with the name. It stands for a human ejaculating electricity.
Oh my God. What?
No, I'm just making that up.
That's it though. You're forever known as that now. That's for sure what it stands for. You got to make a new logo of a guy with like a lightning bolt dick. Yeah, that's nuts. That's super funny.
No, but it stands for a human expressing experience. Because at the time I was like
ejaculating electricity.
Yeah,
it's funny.
But I was recording everything, and I was like making songs out of recordings of my experiences, and that was like my thing. I like made 48 plus albums of like weird Aphex Twin IDM. Like glitch music.
Yeah.
And then like 2012 I started getting into like electronic, like dance music, and then 2016 I started making bass music and dubstep and other things. And then it wasn't until like the last 2 years that like my professional career really started to take off.
Awesome. Yeah. Very cool. And much deserved. I'm stoked to see you rise. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's been all the things I've been working on since I was 6.
Yeah. Wild. So when did aliens enter your sphere of awareness?
Well, I think that they sort of co-happened along with some of these experiences when I was a kid, in the sense that I'm not convinced that aliens are necessarily from another planet, but could be more likely from another dimension. It's and I can. I'm not entirely sure on that. You know, no one.
I mean, no one is. But you can
really
guess.
knows. But yeah.
I mean, I've heard theories anywhere from the least likely, which is that they travel at the speed of light and come from super far away. That just doesn't really make scientific sense.
Yeah.
The newest one that I heard is they travel from planet to planet via that planet's water body of water.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy. Episode 3 of Close Encounters on Netflix.
Okay.
They talk about how every single star in the night sky has planets. Of those stars, 1 out of 5 has at least one planet in the habitable zone. Habitable zone meaning that's where you can have liquid water. So if you look up at the sky at night, 1 out of every 5 stars has a planet with water on it. That doesn't mean life, but it does mean water. And that giant body of water could be where an interstellar traveler would go straight into the ocean of that planet, where they could reset, they could charge, they could use the oxygen of the water, they could power it, they could have food, shelter, whatever. And then they would dip out and go to the next planet with water, and that's kind of how they hop around.
Oh, I for a second there I thought you were going to galaxy. They transport from one water body to another.
Oh, maybe.
I was like,
I don't know.
That doesn't make sense.
That. No.
I can't wrap my brain around that. But yeah, it's seeing as so. One of the interesting phenomenon that we see right now is that a lot of these UAPs, UFOs that the militaries encounter is around water.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that's been another huge part of that whole explanation.
Yeah. Like Commander Fраvor's experience, you know, the ship went underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that has some interesting merit to it. And also, you know, water would protect you from radiation to some extent.
That was a big part of it too.
Yeah.
Yep. And it prevents you from being discovered, because we haven't traversed or seen or discovered 70% of the ocean or more, like a ridiculous amount.
The ocean is has a lot to be revealed.
Yeah.
But when did aliens first come in? Jeez, I don't know. Well, I had a personal experience in 2014 at a festival, sober, where I was having a conversation with a friend, and I was looking at this star. I'm really into astronomy, and so I was like, I don't recognize this star. And then my friend's like, oh yeah, that's not a star, that's a UFO. And now that we've seen it, it's probably going to move because it's interlinked with consciousness. And I'm like, no, it's been there for 5 minutes. And then as soon as I stop saying that, this thing like zooms across like this huge portion of the sky, and then like goes at a 45-degree angle up and disappears, and it lasts like less than a second. It just goes
from standing still.
Yeah, for 5 minutes. I was like looking at this thing for 5 minutes as we were talking, being like, I'm tripping out because I don't
what about
recognize
it first
this star.
Caught your eye? The fact that it was out of place in the night sky?
Yeah,
you know astronomy so
and
well?
Also because it was so bright, and also because it didn't. I was like, is that a planet? It's got to be a planet because it's so bright comparatively. But then I was like, this doesn't make sense. And then I said that out loud, and then it happened. And I was like, whoa. And then I learned later that there was a military base nearby, so I'm not convinced that that's aliens.
Do you remember it blinking at all? Or was it a solid
It
light?
was a solid.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it.
Wow.
Yeah. It was shockingly impressive how fast it was.
Yeah.
I've never witnessed anything since or before that. I'm not, like I said, I'm not convinced it's aliens though. Also, I did have a out of body alien experience that was more profound. That was before that. Do you want to? I can share that story.
I have to hear this one.
Yeah. So this one is, I call it my mountain experience. And basically it was one of my best childhood friends and we took LSD and hiked up the Santa Clarita mountains near Pasadena, or Placerita Canyon. Yeah, that's what it was called. Sort of up near I was going to this college, Cal Arts.
Yeah.
north of LA. And we go on this hike, and we're up at the top of the mountain, and it's really windy. And I'm holding like a field recorder to my chest, and we're just having sort of these visions. And then a ship appears, and it's about the size of a manhole cover, like on the street, you know?
So that's pretty small.
Yeah. And as soon as I see it, I have an emotional connection to it where I'm like it's like if I was a knight seeing its trusty steed, like a horse, like after a battle, or I'm like, oh my God, you're still alive.
Wow.
You're still here.
There's an emotional connection.
Yeah.
To it.
And then it moved through the air as if the air was made of rocks and the ship was made of water.
Whoa.
Yeah. So it didn't move the materia of the air out of the way. It coagulated its own materia around the air molecules, but in a consistent shape.
In a consistent shape. Okay. Yeah. What did it visually look like?
Literally just like a disc.
A disc.
Yeah.
So it literally looked like a manhole cover.
About the size and shape. Maybe it had some thickness to it too. It wasn't a completely flat line.
And what orientation was it facing as it moved forward?
Well,
flat like a plate.
It's hard to kind of say.
Yeah,
because
sure.
It moved in a way I've never seen anything else move.
Huh.
And it came up to me basically, and I stepped out of my body onto this ship. And as soon as I did that, I could see from both myself on the mountain and myself on the ship. I was like looking at myself simultaneously from two different perspectives. And because I was on one hit of LSD, I was like, sure, I guess this is part of it. You know, like,
I guess I'm tripping.
Yeah, you know. And so I wasn't panicking at all.
Yeah.
I was just like, okay, let's go for the ride. You know, maybe it's just a hallucination. I don't know. And then the ship starts to move. And from my perspective on the mountain, I basically see myself on the ship move down the slope of the hill. But then from the perspective of my body on the ship, looking at myself on the mountain, we travel so far into space, not through space, but into space, that my body on the mountain completely disappears. And then we basically... And this is why I think interdimensionality is potentially a part of reality, is because like we didn't go from one planet to another. It was like we just traveled to a different TV channel within the fabric of reality that's present around a conscious perspective.
Yeah.
And then we like, it wasn't like shrinking, but that's like the closest thing I can really say. But like we're like moving into space, and then we get to our destination. I step off the ship, and I was at a giant dance party where I met everyone I ever will meet and never have, and including yourself.
I was there.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
Did we hang out?
It was awesome. And when I say this story, I share that part like literally with everyone, because it's everyone I've ever met or ever will meet was there at this party, including all y'all. And it was awesome. It was just the most amazing dance party ever.
Why do you think that was your destination?
It almost felt like I made an album about it later on. I called it The Dance Party at the End of Time. Because it didn't feel like we were in time, like linear time. And again, why I say linear time can be time can be interacted with non-linearly.
Yeah.
Is because of these personal experiences. Basically, yeah, we had a great time. I stepped back onto the ship. It goes back, and I step off the ship back into my body. And as soon as I step back into my body, my friend and I, we turned to each other and we're like, "Did you see that?"
Did he say that to you?
And I have it on recording of us saying it at the exact same time.
Really?
Yeah.
And you've listened to it since?
Yeah.
You say it at the same time?
Yeah. It's like super windy, you know, but then like you hear us say it at the same time.
Can you tell how long it was in between you saying and that
Oh,
thing.
well,
and,
he could.
right.
So later on,
Okay.
like I asked him what his experience was.
yeah.
And he basically said he saw a ship appear about the size of a manhole cover, and then he said he saw it flip into itself and disappear.
Whoa.
And then
Kind of like fold into itself as if
Yeah.
it was malleable and flexible.
it's almost like it. He said it like it was a flat disc, and he said it started to bend, but as it bent, it disappeared.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And he said that whole experience lasted about 3 seconds.
So he didn't visually see you interact with the disc.
No, but he felt it and was actually really upset with me for not inviting him.
See, and that, when you talk about time,
I was like, I don't have.
I mean, he wasn't on the guest list.
No, it's
He
no.
wasn't on the guest list.
He was at the party.
He was at the party.
but he wasn't.
He couldn't share. It's not an Uber for two.
Yeah,
It's not an Uber for two.
I
It's a
don't.
spaceship Uber for one.
I guess I don't make the rules. You know,
You
It's
sure
like-
don't.
You know,
When
I
the
was
aliens say get on, you
experiencing
gotta
it.
get on.
But
Yeah.
he knew that I had been on it, and he was also sort of upset, like that. I don't know. He thought I could have been an alien, and I'm like, and I was like, you're my best friend, like one of my closest friends my whole life. How come you never told me? I'm like, I don't know anything, bro.
I've always wondered, but I just didn't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
So when you talk about time, your experience interacting with the ship, also, I think it's interesting that you refer to it as a ship.
Yeah,
You stick to that.
yeah, because it was able to transport me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also the fact that I had a relationship with it.
Right.
Because that when you're on drugs, words become
Very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that, speaking about time, there's a common experience that a lot of people have when they have these encounters where they lose time. I forget what the phrasing exactly is, but
lost time. Yeah.
lost time. Yeah. So your friend says that it lasted 3 seconds, his visual of the ship.
Yeah.
For you, clearly your out of body experience was longer than 3 seconds.
Well, like I said, I wasn't experiencing time linearly.
Right. Exactly. You weren't.
I was at the dance party at the end of time. Is like how I put it.
Right. And for all that to happen in our like default reality that we're in, we would need to quantify it in seconds and minutes.
3 seconds.
Yeah, but within 3 seconds, it just it kind of shatters your perception of what's possible.
Yeah.
That's just so wild.
It goes back to why
Yeah.
I said it earlier.
Yeah. Damn. Is that the closest you've gotten with something kind of not?
That's
of
one of the
our
closest
world?
things, and then I have one other story that's also one of the closest things.
Where did this happen?
I told you in
North of LA.
yeah.
In that area.
Yeah.
Have you gone back there since?
I have not. No.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no. I used to go pick up trash in that same mountain area.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Good job.
Well, it's because I got a speeding ticket.
Okay. It's not because I was a nice person.
No. But also, I later on like developed like an enjoyment for going through and picking up trash.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you think that being on a substance like LSD kind of alters your ability to connect with and have these experiences?
I'm not sure
think it heightens?
if it's that or
Mm-hmm.
if it's that it's almost like an excuse for you to experience these things. Because they could happen soberly, but they're so traumatic for us that we need an excuse physically to like say,
to be able to process it without
Yeah.
totally freaking out?
Yeah. That's what it feels like
Mm-hmm.
to me, but I'm unsure.
Sure. Have you ever tried to put yourself in a skeptic in a skeptic's state of mind for this experience specifically?
Constantly, because like I have to, otherwise, I'm gonna think, I don't know, there's something, I wouldn't be able to interact in reality if I didn't continuously, think that what I experienced was, some machination of my brain. I'm constantly wondering, okay, I'm creating all these great little stories and everything, but maybe it's just that's all it is great little stories, you know. But to me, in the moment, man, does it feel real.
Yeah,
it feels so real, and it feels like that it's important, and at the same time, you know, I can't let that importance get in the way of, you know, me growing as an individual.
Right. You can't allow it to become intoxicating to the point where it's just completely distracting.
Of me trying
to
to
think about.
Of me trying to start a cult and being like,
and have sex with everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, you ever fucked a guy that's flown on a manhole cover? So when you're
have you though?
Have you though? Last question, and then I want to hear the other story. But this is so fucking fascinating, dude. When you put your skeptic pants on,
Yeah.
is there any explanation that skeptic Chris can present to himself that is stronger than the reality that you experienced? Is there anything that like makes sense?
It's not stronger. I'll tell you that. But,
Yeah.
Like I said,
is it just like maybe I hallucinated it?
yeah, it may be
Like that's-
schizophrenia or something like that. And it's like the temporary
It's not like
schizophrenia.
it would have been a bit because a manhole cover doesn't look like a bird. You're not going to mistake it for like a natural phenomena. You know what I mean?
No, especially when I have corroborating witnesses.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so.
And it's not a frisbee. There was nobody around. It's not like anything
we're on top
dumb
of
or
a
simple.
mount. We're on top of a
right.
freaking mountain with
Right.
nothing around.
Right.
You know, and it was just super windy, and to see something stand still in the wind, you know, like I've seen planes. Planes move consistently.
Yeah.
You know, they don't like come up to you and
Right.
change perspective in that way.
Yeah. Was it emanating a sound?
No. It was emanating a presence. And the presence was emotional.
It's so interesting the way that you describe it moving too, because a lot of these UAPs have been described as being they move through any type of medium, but they don't move. They move through the medium in the exact way that you've described, like by pulling the medium around the medium being air, water, or earth.
I don't think it's being pulled
Transmedium.
around it. I think it's just you're just not interacting with the medium. There's some subset of reality that it's able to traverse through. That's not like the molecular level.
That's crazy. I don't understand that, but that's wild.
Like, you know,
it's just a brain-breaking thing to think about.
To think about it scientifically, the atoms are mostly empty space.
Yes. Just have vibration in between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can travel into empty space.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know how that would work.
Yeah.
But that's, I don't know.
But in theory, that's the theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Damn. Okay. What was your other one where you got close?
I was in the jungles of Colombia doing ayahuasca with the Kogi Indians. I was the third group of white people to ever be introduced to this native tribe. I went down there with this author, Daniel Pinchbeck, in 2011. The Kogi were sort of separate from the ayahuasca experiences, but they were happening at the same time. The Kogi were this really fascinating culture that survived the conquistadors, and they have this spiritual caste where they're priests that are at the top of the caste, and basically they're raised in a cave from when they're born till when they're 10, and to not see the outside world, so that way they can communicate with the spirit of the earth, Gaia.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so I went to go meet these people.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Because I was like, y'all are really interesting, you know? And
Yeah.
I had all these really in-depth conversations with them. And like, I didn't really, I don't know, I went to them with almost like a seeking of spiritual, like, seeking people that knew more spiritually about something than me. And then when I got there and talked with them, I'm like, oh, these people are just as human, and they are just as prone to mistakes as anyone else.
Yeah.
You know, because they believe some things. I was like, I don't think that's good. Like they, and I don't want to misrepresent them, but and so yeah, go listen to the Kogi. There's a great documentary called Elder Brother.
Yeah, I'm sure they have some wildly different approaches to aspects of life than we do.
Yeah. And so, yeah, if you want to go learn about the Kogi, Kogi, like Elder Brother is the name of the documentary. It's really, really interesting. But so that was why I was there. And we happened to also do ayahuasca there with some other shaman. And basically, I took the ayahuasca, went through the vomiting phase. I tried to explain it to myself, calling them the Erpy Derpies, in order to sort of make it a game rather than this super serious thing.
Mm-hmm.
And because it was too intense, because I was like not with any friends in the far reaches of like the Caribbean coast of Colombia, out in the middle of the jungle there.
Damn,
doing
dude.
ayahuasca with strangers.
That's insane.
And so I was like, okay, I gotta bring some little light to my vomiting.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, I gotta bring some light to this. And then basically, I sat back down in the circle, and then this portal opens up, and a deluge of entities comes pouring out of it, and they're arm in arm, like locked arm in arm. And they have, the first thing I noticed is they have these sharp blue and orange fangs, that the color contrast between them was so intense it was nauseating to behold.
Well,
And they had black and white concentric circle Mickey Mouse like ears, and they could strobe them and create any color and any shade, and they were almost pouring out of this portal and creating a living LED wall in front of me of their strobing ears. And they were saying, surrender, surrender, ah, cha, cha, cha. And whenever they spoke, it sounded like electricity running down a telephone wire. It was almost like they're echoing as they're like all chanting this together in front of me, almost to like totally awestruck me into submission. And when I felt their presence, again, there was an emotional aspect to it, but it was really dark. And I felt like they were there to basically create a new reality to manipulate me and take my soul. I don't know how else to put it, but I felt
Whoa.
a pain in my soul. And whenever they said, surrender, surrender, ah, cha, 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 because they were using the language of hippies. Oh, surrender to the experience. Right. But they were using it in a weaponized way, an aggressive way. And I was like, oh, like, how about we play a game instead? And they're like, surrender, surrender. And another huge pain. I've never felt more pain in my life from anything physical than in this moment.
What was the pain like?
In my soul. Like doom.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like deep, 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 deep dread and fear.
Yeah. And which was like out of nowhere. And I was like, guys, I'm just not feeling the love. Can we just interact somehow else? And they're like, shit, it's not working. It's not working. Erase this memory, erase this memory. And then I started feeling a chewing sensation, and then a snap would happen, and then they would all start to pixelate. And then like another snap, it's pixelate even more. And I was like, I need to remember this. This is too important. And so I summon up my shaman self, because I've had other psychedelic experiences prior to this where I had reached in like what the Hindus would call the Godhead, where everything is one, like the oneness of the universe. And that to me, I feel like is the bullseye of the psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
And so I knew that this was way off the target.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, if everything is one, then anything you can do, I can do as well. And so I basically take their portal and loop it over them. I don't know how I did this. You know, this is me high as hell, like feeling like I'm being attacked by who knows what.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, and they and then they left they were gone, and I got up out of the circle. I'm like, I'm out of here. And I go and sit on the beach and play this little 10-string instrument called a charango, and watch the ocean waves. It was all phosphorescent algae, so every time the waves crashed, it was all like Avatar and glowing.
Bioluminescent. Yeah.
And every time I left a footprint, it would glow.
Oh, that's cool.
It was
Yeah.
so crazy.
I mean, that's really toxic, and it's not a good thing nature-wise, but like it's a cool thing to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. Were your eyes open during this whole experience?
Yeah. But I couldn't see any of reality.
So all that you were intaking through your eyes was this portal,
new thing.
this new thing.
Because like at the beginning of it, it came out. It was hard to say how fast because it was so overwhelming that like I had to focus on it.
Yeah.
But I could, when it first started, I could still see reality on the edges of the LED like screen. That
And your reality would have been like nighttime forest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it literally felt like, I was being taken over by something, and I prevented it through love and silliness.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did anyone else in the circle notice what was happening or have a similar experience?
That was okay. So to continue the story,
Yeah.
the next day we all shared our experiences. No one had a good time that night.
Really?
And except one girl who was like, it was beautiful, I think. She was like, she really wanted to like have some magical ceremony ayahuasca
She
thing.
was,
and it was,
seeking unicorn vibes.
Yeah, and it was dark. And she was like, it seemed like she was really repressing her. But then like, basically I told my story. I got a standing ovation of like people clapping, like telling the story. And people came up to me in private throughout the event being like, I think they erased my memory.
Really?
And I was like, don't tell me that.
Really?
I just wanted it to be my hallucination. You know, that like I just had to go through.
So some people might have been trying to like be a part of what your experience was, even though they may not have had.
No, I think that they had
similar?
the experience, and then like they didn't have the defense mechanism to deal with it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And then other people, I think,
Dude.
fell for it, and like I could tell like they were like, when you sort of see a drug zombie, where someone's like continuously having to heal. It was kind of like that with some people there.
Yeah.
A lot of people there were really cool, interesting folks, still like I didn't know them that well, but like they all.
What was the ratio of like people from the modern Western world?
It was
locals?
about 20 of us in a circle, and maybe less, 20 or so. And I would say almost no one there was local. Yeah, except for maybe two of like not the guides. Like the guides were from Brazil, the shamans were from Brazil, male and female, and then they had some helpers that I think were local.
Do they play music throughout the whole thing?
Yeah, the shaman was doing the Icaros.
Yeah.
The singing, and they did not. It did not. It almost felt like the shaman was displaying his power and not knowing what it was. Because later on, it felt he had a bit of an ego while sober. Yeah, which was odd to have that. Kind of thing. Because most ayahuasca experiences, like the leaders are pretty like chill and like
super
very like aware of other people's negative situations, because their whole task is to protect people from those experiences,
right? And to facilitate a positive experience, or at least a positive result, because the experience can be negative. You can be puking the whole time and crying, but the outcome should be facilitated to be positive.
This particular shaman felt that he was showing off his ability without knowing what his ability was.
Okay. Yeah. I've met some people like that. Never in ceremony, but I understand that. Yeah. And
so I was just wishing that people would not tell me that they had the same thing, because I was like, I don't want that for anybody. It was
so how did you process that? Like, have you landed in a space where do you kind of leave it as a majority of a mystery as to what those entities were and what their intentions were and why you saw them?
Well, so like I said, that there was an emotional reaction to them.
Right.
Also, when you can get a vibe off of somebody or you can almost see like trauma in somebody's eyes. Like how is it that we can pick up on that?
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw these entities, I could almost see who they were and what they wanted and what they were afraid of. And I don't know why, but like in the state of being, this was in 2011, their biggest fear was the Republican Party.
Really?
Which like,
what?
this was like, was that Bush era?
In 2011?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Obama was 2008, and then again 2012, and then Trump was 2016.
It was Obama then.
It was Obama's era.
Yeah. And so like to me, Trump or like Bush was like this like evil, Republican force, and to have like these entities that were like very evil be afraid of him. or not Bush particularly, but like just
the Republican Party.
Yeah, because
some far left entities.
Yeah, I don't think they were far left at all. But I think what they were afraid of was that I've thought about this a lot over the years. I'm like, why did I have that thought? Or why did that intuition come to me? And also, the only thing I could really explain it logically is that Republicans tend to be Christians, and Christians tend to have a conception of demons.
Mm.
And so like
a belief in demons,
yeah,
and a better understanding of like the demonic realm than most because of their religious upbringing.
I don't know if they have a better understanding, but they have a belief.
A stronger belief, a better understanding, as in a wider breadth of knowledge about what could be the demonic realm.
I would say that like hippies tend to want to view everything in love and light.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they encounter evil, they're not going to do anything about it necessarily.
Mm.
Actually, I'm going to take that back. That's not necessarily true. But I will say that
they might not have the tools to
fight back.
Yeah. Right. The way that maybe somebody who's Christian would, because they were raised.
Yeah, which I don't even know if the Christians have the skills to deal with this.
No, right. But if you're, I would assume, having not been brought up religious, but I would assume that somebody who is brought up religious, who studies the Bible, who goes to church, who hears testimonies and talks to the priest, the pastor, I don't even know my terminologies. They say their prayers, they break bread on Sundays, whatever the fuck. They have a wider knowledge base of theories of demons, theories of how to interact with demons.
I don't even think that's true. I think what it is they just have an idea that they exist at all.
Oh, okay. So very foundational.
Yeah.
Just like one
because
simple
these
idea.
entities, it seemed that they fed off the fact that nobody knew they existed.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because then no one would do anything about it.
Interesting.
Because it felt like their intention was why they were trying to take over my soul was that they couldn't live in this physical reality, but they wanted to control it or inhabit it in some way. And the way that they could have influence in this is through influencing humans' behavior.
Wow. Damn.
Yeah. And so I don't know to what extent they're capable of doing that, but one of the other things that was an intuition when encountering them was that they could interact with time non-linearly, so they could put something in the past recently.
Whoa. What?
Yeah, like they could influence somebody or something in the past, but then like it's weird because we think of time linearly, but they'd be like, okay, here's moment A now. We're now at moment B. Let's go back to moment negative Z.
Right.
And influence that decision so it happens at point A.
Damn, dude.
And so it's like, and it was really odd to experience that intuition because like I'm just high on ayahuasca in the jungle by myself making up shit, like maybe it's just that. But at the same time, I was like, I never felt anything more real in my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
You've had a couple. So the entities that you experienced in the jungle.
Mm.
How do you describe the difference between those types of entities, which I just thrown it out without thinking would call them like spiritual entities, whatever, light beings or something like that? How do you differentiate verbally that experience with those types of things versus like what we would call aliens and UAPs,
like gray aliens and whatnot?
Yeah. But there's so many different creatures out there and beings.
I would say that the universe is going to be way more diverse than Earth.
Yeah.
And that
the universe is going to be way more diverse than like the carbon-based life forms that we are familiar with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that and also, I don't know how they interact or whatnot. Like, it could be something as like, I just thought of this just now. What if this whole, like I said, aliens, like I'm not convinced they're from other planets, or some portion of them are not from other planets, but multidimensional.
Yeah.
And that, what if multidimensional aliens could create a physical drone that could live in our particular plane of existence of 3D reality, and they like influence these things from another dimension in a similar way that they influence they attempt to influence humans from their dimension into ours, at least from my personal experience. I don't know. And so it's like all throughout history, we have all these different cultures mentioning aliens in some form or fashion,
Yeah, it's in ancient art. You see a saucer. You see
angels, demons,
right.
Like maybe there's some correlation there. Because like I've experienced other entities that are, that pointed me on a path towards oneness, because these entities I experienced on ayahuasca pointed me towards whatever they wanted, while the entities that I've found to be more positive leaning, benevolent, I would say that they were less interested in having themselves be the center of the interaction and more just being like, go that way, as like a guide towards a greater goodness.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think there's a tangible difference between the two, at least in your feeling emotionally?
Well, maybe what it is that there's this concept I got from a book called The Law of One, by Ra, The Law of One. It's this channeled book. And in that book, they talk about service to self and service to others as like these two ways of interacting with the universe. And service to self, I would imagine that you would try to interact with things in order to point toward yourself to get your own thing across, while service to others is like, I'm going to help serve you to get to the point that is more beneficial for you, And so when I try to do that in all my tutorials, like I make a bunch of, production tutorials. And so that's been the guiding philosophy about how I approach tutorials, is I'm trying to actually like help people grow in that sense, which again goes back to why I think psychedelics are important, because they give us these perspectives that may influence our life decisions, hopefully in a more positive way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that entities that are maybe more good don't need to be the center of focus.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, with everything that's come out recently, with the congressional hearings, you follow this stuff more than I do, and I follow it more than all of my friends. So you're above me, and you showed me some shit yesterday that blew my mind. The ChatGPT tricks, ChatGPT 4, ChatGPT tricks is the Instagram page that you showed me this thing on, where somebody entered a prompt for ChatGPT to fill in all of the redacted spaces on classified government documents. Obviously, ChatGPT is not telling us what's on the document, but it is, to the best of its ability, filling in those redacted spaces with what could plausibly and possibly have been redacted.
Yeah.
And it's fucking bananas.
I know, right?
So, you know, we have the congressional hearing, we have all these sightings, we have the Mexico one, which I'm not super sold on.
The Mexico one is, I feel like that one was done to like discredit all the other stuff.
Yeah, that could have been part psyop. We don't know.
Because that guy has done that stunt multiple times.
Oh, he
and
has.
has never gotten this much attention on it.
That's a bummer. So not that, but you know, we have the Grush, we have Fravor, the two best Davids in the world, in my opinion. We have the congressional hearings, the Tic Tacs, the gimbal videos, all the things that are coming up.
Yeah.
How have your experiences influenced you to process all this new information? Is it kind of like, are you in a space of like, finally you all are catching up, or are you learning new things as everybody else is too? Like, how do your experiences interact with all of this new Renaissance period of alien lore that's coming to light?
Well, it's definitely a lot of both, because I've heard a lot of these things over time. I've been really deep interested in it, but at the same time, I'm still learning all sorts of new stuff, you know, as they're coming out, particularly from the Stephen Greer disclosure project that happened in the second disclosure project that happened in June or July this year. That one's a really good video. It has some new witness, like whistleblowers coming out about that are able to be whistleblowers now because of a Whistleblower Protection Act that was put into law, I think, last year.
Yeah, that was the new one. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's, people ask like, why are all these whistleblowers coming out now? It's because they now have a legal loophole to go through.
Right. Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And needed.
And basically, I got really interested in it because as a sound engineer, I could see the similarities between some of this technology that is being talked about, and particularly around gravity waves and sound waves, because I know sound waves really well.
Yeah,
you know, I've spent my whole life like studying sound waves and the effects, and so I have this theory that how UFOs could work. Is that now that we know that gravity is a wave, we discovered that gravity has wave-like properties from the LIGO system, which is basically a vacuum tube with a mile-long vacuum tube with a laser shining through it. And there's two of them. There's one in Washington State and one in Louisiana. And basically, it has a laser shining through it, and it's constantly phase canceling itself out, which... You know what a sine wave looks like?
Yeah, it goes up and down.
Yeah. So imagine two opposing sine waves where they meet and then become flat.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, and that's phase cancellation. So, you know, on a speaker cone, how a speaker cone goes in and out with a magnet?
Yeah.
You know, so imagine that same movement, but now with the sine wave.
Okay.
And see how they correlate?
Yeah.
So as the sine wave goes up, the speaker cone goes out, and then as the sine wave goes down, the speaker cone goes backward.
And by speaker cone, you're talking about a speaker that's emitting noise, sound.
Yeah. And so I'm just describing
the
physicality of a speaker, and playing a sine wave.
Right.
And I'm using that analogy to talk about this laser in there. So because this laser is constantly being phase canceled out, it's basically at null. So imagine you were to play two sine tones out of the speaker, but you were to play them in opposite directions. So one of the sine waves went up and one of the sine waves went down. The speaker cone can't be in two places at once, so it's going to do the mathematical difference.
Which is probably not moving, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the whole point.
Right.
There's nothing special about that.
Right.
That's all I'm describing is pure physics, known physics. And so when two black holes collide, it creates such a strong force that it creates a ripple in space-time itself, almost like dropping a pebble in a pond. But instead of the medium being water, the medium is time and space itself. And that's a known thing.
Yeah.
Discovered in 2015 when they turned it on, and they measure one of these things like every couple of days or something like that nowadays. So we know that time and space can wiggle.
Damn.
Yeah. And so when the ripple of time and space passes of compressed time and space passes over Earth and passes over that laser field, it basically unphase cancels itself because it changes the amount of time and space that laser has to travel through.
Oh, wow.
Ever so minute.
Very, very fucking small.
Yeah.
But yeah.
These machines are probably one of the most advanced machines humans ever made.
Yeah. Super sensitive.
Yeah. And there's a podcast, I forgot who it's with, but it goes in the guy that was in charge of that program talks about it. It's so fascinating. So basically that whole story is to just say we now know that gravity is a wave. And so I started to think as a sound engineer, okay, well, we know gravity has wave-like properties now. What are all the other aspects of waves that we can now apply to gravity? So I just start thinking of all this dubstep sound design terminology and just like thinking about, oh, what would that look like with gravity?
Yeah.
And so I particularly started to think about resonance. And resonance is, I think the most common example is, when an opera singer sings really loudly and can shatter glass. That's an example of resonance. Another, I think, clear example of physical resonance is, imagine you have a punching bag hanging from a chain on the ceiling, and you were to hit it with a baseball bat, it would just sort of jiggle around, But if you were to push it like a swing, it would eventually swing higher and then higher and higher if you timed the pulses, at the correct rate, with the correct amount of input in each pulse.
Yeah.
That's an example of physical resonance where each pulse adds to the next and is able to eventually hit the ceiling with the punching bag, pushing it like a swing in that way. And so that's a physical example of resonance. So what if you could resonate the ambient gravity field that exists everywhere and basically fall in any direction?
Then you'd be able to manipulate gravity for your own use to travel.
Yeah.
So that's your theory of how they move around.
Part of it.
Part of it.
How would you resonate gravity?
Right.
That's the big question.
That's the question. Yeah.
And I happened to be upgraded to first class last year on a flight when I was touring.
You don't have to brag. It's okay.
First class. But, I sat next to this guy who was a fiber optic specialist. And we were having this amazing conversation. I brought up this idea to him, and he was like, wow, this actually makes sense. Like, I can actually, that makes logical and physical sense. And I was like, yeah, but the only thing is, how would you resonate gravity? And he's like, well, within fiber optics, there's this element that they use called element 68, erbium, E-R-B-I-U-M. And they call it doping, where you dope the fiber optic cable with this element, and basically as the light from the fiber optic cable passes over it, you shoot light through a fiber optic cable, laser light, and basically as it passes over these elements, it amplifies the light. And so they dope it every so much, like, those giant underwater internet cables that connect to the internet between continents. Yeah. So he specialized in like the quality control for those things.
Wow. Okay.
And so he was saying, yeah, they're like doped or injected with this material every so often. And they don't know why it works. They just know that it works. And so he was saying, I think it has something to do with outer valence electron shell. I'm saying that wrong, but I think it has to do with when you pass light over it, it like has something to do with the amount of electrons in the outermost shell of it. I'm something to do with that. I cannot remember it right now, but anyways, the effect for certain is that it amplifies the light. So I was thinking, well, what if, or he was saying, what if there was an element that interacted with gravity waves the same way that erbium interacts with light waves?
An element that could interact with gravity waves.
And so
Fuck.
that connects to Bob Lazar's story.
Which is element
115.
Wow, dude. Wow. Do you think the government knows all of this? Because if we're talking about it, how could they not?
I don't think the government knows about this stuff because I don't think
How
that
could they
these
not?
I don't think these programs are governmental. They're sub or ultra, governmental. Like it goes back to Eisenhower's farewell speech, where he warned he's the general that won World War II,
right,
was the president. In his farewell speech, he warned the American people about the growing industrial military complex.
Yes, he was the first to coin military-industrial complex.
Yeah,
yes.
Right. And so he was warning the American people that there were organizations that were basically getting their funding for military operations outside of congressional control. And what we're seeing now with David Grush and Congress is
people starting to ask questions about that shit.
They're battling over who has control of the budget for these things.
Right.
Because the Congress is like...
Congress is starting to realize that they don't have... They're not in control of that budget.
Yeah.
And it's happening behind their backs and under their noses and up their asses. It's happening without their signing off on it and without their knowledge.
And it's been happening for almost like 80, 90 years.
So it's it's organizations, like shadow organizations is basically what it is. It's organizations, who knows who controls them, the Department of Defense type players or CIA, backlot people in the CIA in high positions of power that might have enough pull to catalyze research on element 115 for this thing, or without the CIA's direct involvement.
I don't think that it's the CIA. I don't think it's any letter agency, because there's plenty of good people and those things have enough things to deal with.
Yeah.
I don't think it's those things. I think it's individuals that get groomed and picked out of those things.
Yes.
Because they're useful to be in those positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the agency itself. It's, the deputy director of this letter agency from 20 years ago who got handed a check for $100 million and now is the secret middleman between two hidden projects and he siphons money from Congress's budget and calls it something else, but really that money goes toward the secret project that, Bob Lazar or somebody was working on.
That could be one example.
That's my brain fart of an example.
Yeah.
In the moment.
I would say that the testimonies that are part of the Disclosure Project have more credibility and insight into those questions than I ever would.
Sure.
Because I'm not part of any organization. I'm a dubstep DJ that did drugs.
You're part of the LSD. Yeah. IA. Dude, wild, man. God, I know you have so many stories. So you got to come back for season 3 of this podcast. But as we reach our final phase here, what's your outlook for the future, man? I mean, I'll tell you mine. As much as I believe and as enthusiastic as I am about the possibility of finding and interacting with life not from Earth, or at least not from this 3D reality that we occupy, I want a face-to-face or very legit physical proof. I need it I need it so bad because I've heard stories from you, some other people. Yeah. I've seen all the things, all the documentaries. Yeah. But like all I'm missing is a handshake. You know what I mean? Or a Polaroid, dude. Yeah. Something real.
Well, I think that we are in such a stressed society that we have to have access to that technology at some point soon to even stabilize society and the climate. Mm-hmm. And I think smart people will eventually get to that. But, it's going to cause a lot of chaos in the medium to get to there. But also, like I said, I don't think we're going to handshake with good aliens.
Do you think we're going to handshake with bad aliens?
I think possibly humans already did.
And what would your break?
And also, I wouldn't say good or bad, too. I would say different intentions. And I would say that they're mixed intentions. And also, I would say that potentially that we don't have a choice in our interaction with these things.
Right. Because last time we hung out, we were talking about that Reddit article. Well, it's not an article. It's it was a Reddit post written by somebody. I'm going to say it right now so y'all can go out and look it up. It was a Reddit post from, here's the date. Just type into DuckDuckGo. Don't use Google. Type into, the user is deleted. The title is, from the late 2000s to the mid 2010s, I worked as a molecular biologist for a national security contractor in a program to study exobiospheric organisms, EBO. I will share with you a lot of information on this subject. Feel free to ask questions or ask for clarification. We're in early October now. This was posted 3 months ago in the subreddit r/aliens. To find it, I'll post the link in the show notes. So yeah, go to the show notes. Or if you're on YouTube, Spotify, whatever, it's in the description. So I'll post the link there. But when we were talking about this last time, this is the most detailed and scientifically backed breakdown of a singular individual's experience working on alien shit that I've ever personally read.
Where particularly the impressive part is the genetic sequencing and all the information about the genetics.
Yeah.
Because if you go through the comments, people are like, yeah, this actually makes sense.
Yeah, and there's commenters on here who share what their degrees are and their background, and they're like, hey, yeah, this is either a guy who really did the shit or literally the greatest science fiction writer of all time. Yeah. And if you're going to be the greatest science fiction writer of all time, you're not just going to make a Reddit post, you're going to write a book.
Yeah, you're going to make some money.
Go make some money, dude.
Yeah.
So, but to your point, and then we'll wrap it up, to your point about humanity maybe not having a choice in the matter and maybe not necessarily having interacted with aliens who have the most benevolent intentions. This guy, in his writing, talks about the religious aspects of what these EBOs, exobiospheric organisms, so aliens. We'll call them aliens because that's more fun. The religious background of the aliens and how their intentions align with their religion. And he talks about how their ultimate intention seems to be apotheosis, as in the energy field of the universe reaching a state of critical mass. And that creates apotheosis. Apotheosis, I could define off the top of my head, but instead I'm going to read the definition so that I don't sound like a fucking idiot. Apotheosis, the highest point in the development of something, a culmination or climax.
The oneness of all things.
The oneness of all things. And this guy talks about how these EBOs, these alien organisms that have been discovered in various landed crafts or crashed crafts, seem to be the worker bees. They don't have individuality. They don't have personality. Mm-hmm. And therefore, they would not recognize individuality or personality. And they would not treat us with any type of empathy because they're there for one sole mission. And that is, I guess, to observe and enhance our evolution so that we may become part of the eventual apotheosis where everything does become one. What does that one look like? I don't know, a giant white light? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But the crashed creatures seem to be the worker bees that are either programmed or have been created by a different species, a different race, coming from a different dimension, here on behalf of them to do their bidding, and have no interest in our culture, have no interest in anything about us besides not letting us use nukes to blow each other up so that we may evolve and reach apotheosis.
Yeah. Well, on the nuke thing, I think there's some talk about how nukes affect not just our dimension, but potentially others as well. And that's
I haven't heard that.
And so it's less of a benevolent reason for us not to use nukes, but a more selfish reason.
What do you know the details on that? Okay, we got to look that up.
Yeah,
we'll look that up after
we don't have enough time.
Yeah,
to dive
don't have
into
enough time, but y'all look up some nukes.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. Any final thoughts on all this?
I have this little saying I like to say to myself, that all is one, so let's have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All is one. Let's have fun, dude.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And then, and so I'm trying to create my DJ, act, my dubstep act, Ahee, as like a way to tell all these stories and like, how do we, I don't know where we're going, but I know that the journey is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to be alive in this time with these people, with everyone here, and it's going to be really challenging, I think, and also really rewarding.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the next couple years on this topic are going to be insane.
Yeah, and I think it's going to drive a lot of people insane.
Yeah.
Some people, and it's okay. You're okay.
You're okay. Guys, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
We're going to be all right. Just go put on some Ahee. Go put some Ahee on the grill. Go put some Ahee on your Spotify. Where can people find you?
Everywhere that you can search on the internet, Spotify.
Ahee.
Yep.
And your music production tutorials?
On YouTube. If you just type in Ahee. If you make electronic music or you're interested in making electronic music, I have a bunch of tutorials on there. It seems like a lot of people really enjoy them.
Awesome.
Everywhere I go, I just hear it nonstop that I've changed people's like entire lives because they're able to express themselves more.
That's awesome.
Through their music.
And all you need is a computer? Do you need like a MIDI keyboard or anything like that?
No, you just need a computer.
Cool.
Download some software and some samples, and I just try to make tutorials to be as clear and concise as possible to actually help people grow in their self-expression. Because I think I imagine 100 years of bass music, and we're at the very beginning of it.
Yeah, we are, dude. So, we are.
It's exciting.
That's rad, bro. I can't wait to see you on stage. I can't wait for our track. And I can't wait until you're back so we can get some more stories.
Oh, hey.
I appreciate you, bro.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thank you for having me on.
Yep. See everybody.
Peace.
Woo! That's it. Mind blown, dude. Those alien stories are nuts. I've gone back and listened quite a few times, and I've talked to him more about it, and I can't wait for my next hike with the homie Chris. Check out more of Ahee's work on Instagram at I am Ahee, Ahee, and just type in Ahee to Spotify and get your brain blown and your mind melted in a good way, because his music slaps. Also, cruise over to legitgold.com, use promo code Brent for 15% off, and check out hemplucid.com and all they have to offer to help optimize your health using promo code PELA at hemplucid.com. Until next time, peace and aliens.